Good evening and welcome to All Women's Football. It is, of course, lower league lingo. And in case you haven't noticed, we're all up for the cup once again because we're finally into the first round proper. We've had all of the qualifying rounds, and now we start to see the introduction of the top four tiers of women's football. So let's get ourselves into it, shall we? Yes, well, hello, welcome back. As you can see, we are -1 this evening. Mr. Foster continuing with his work. It's terrible when that has to get in the way, but there are 3 people left of our little foursome, and here we are. Stuart, it's lovely to have you back on the show. How are you doing today?
It's lovely to be here. I am not too bad, thank you. Normally, it's me, the one that's working and letting the team down. So it's nice to be the reliable one for a week.
Well done, you. Good stuff. That's what we like to hear. And of course, Gaza, always Mr. Reliable, we could potentially call him. How are you doing, sir?
Yeah, good. Thank you. It's a good job that kids need to be taught things at 8 p.m. So, handy when that happens. But yeah, no, looking forward to it. Big fan of the FA Cup. Always surreal to me when we play those games, and you think if things go our way, we could get drawn against the WSL side eventually. Need a few more wins before that, but it's always surreal and enjoy talking about it.
You're not right. I mean, it's interesting. We looked at this on the Monday night show that we do, and we only looked at it briefly because I was basically trying to explore the discussion, and we might come to this at the end of our little preview bit as to whether or not the WSL clubs and the Championship clubs should enter a round earlier than they currently do. You've got obviously tier 3 popping in now with the Northern Premier and the Southern Premier joining us, but then round 2 is still just the same number of teams that you've had before. Round 3 pops in the Championship side, the WSL2, and of course round 4 is when we see the WSL sides. And I just kind of wondered if it might make sense to do that, because otherwise the number of games that you end up with, it's not ideal for the people getting through, but we'll come to that at the end for sure. So yes, very excited, looking forward to it. And it was a bit of a weird one, I thought, this time, in terms of seeing how they've done the groups, because we don't often see it set out in the manner that it has been. But I've taken some of the information from the FA on this occasion, so thank you very much for making it beautiful on your website and very easy for us to drag over. But group number 1 is the mostly northern side of things, which of course would mean we would usually go to Gareth first on this one. 14 ties, 28 clubs, and like we say, mostly northern. And so some pretty interesting matches there, I would think. Gaza, why don't you take us a little run through on some of the ones that maybe stand out for you?
Yeah, interestingly, just before I kind of run through some of the fixtures, Crew, who play in the Northwest Regional League, were in the Group 2, so they're in the Midlands draw. So they've not necessarily done it via league. They've sort of just found where the lines work and just drawn a line across the country. So that's interesting. I think ones that really stand out, I think first thing to say is, I think by and large the favourites won the games. I think in the previous round, if you look at those games containing National League sides, Leeds United beat Norton Stockton, and they are rewarded with a game against FC St Helens. Big game for FC St Helens. That they're a side in Tier 6 who are a strong side. They are. They were the only side to beat us when I was at Wythenshawe in that league campaign. Went away there for a place to go, and we got beat. So that's a good tie for St Helens. Durham Sestria, they were comfortable winners away to Accrington Stanley. Not sure who they are, but they won 4-0, and so they've been drawn against Dronfield. Huddersfield beat Spennymoor Town 5-1, and they've been rewarded with the trip of Wythenshawe. We beat Bolton victorious 7-0 at home. I think that's some of the key things. There are some big results here. Chester Street Town winning 10 goals to 1 against Hopton Town. Stockport County beating Gateshead Leam Rangers 8 goals to 1. York beating West Didsbury 5 goals to 1. So there's some big results in the FA Cup. Blackburn Rovers beating Stocksbridge Park Steels 11-2, and they have been rewarded with a rematch against Burnley, which the last time them two played each other last week, Burnley won 13-0. So that's not going to be the draw that Blackburn would have wanted. I'm not sure Burnley are going to be hugely disappointed with it. It's a Lancashire derby in the FA Cup, and you would suspect probably a winnable tie for them. Stockport County and Tranmere digging up that Cheshire County Cup history and bringing that to the first round. I know Tranmere have in past years in that competition beaten Stockport, so that isn't going to be one that Stockport can kind of rest on their laurels for. Liverpool Feds against Chester Street. Long drive for Chester Street that you would suspect that Feds will win. And all Northern Premier to clash with Halifax and Hull. Interesting to see which way around they prefer it. Would they prefer to get 3 points in the league, or would they prefer to win the tie in the FA Cup if they had to choose? I don't know. Who knows? I want to shout out Manchester Laces though. Manchester Laces went in at the very first qualifying round, and they've had some good results in the meantime. They, in the first qualifying round, they played against, I'm just finding it right now. I'm going to scroll a little bit further than I expected. So in the first round, they won 7-1. Got a tie against FC United in the second qualifying round where they won on penalties. In the third qualifying round, so the last round, they got Ossett United and won that game 4-3. So they've had some real kind of barnstorming games, and you know they now host Wallsend in that tie. Another kind of one to pick out, Middlesbrough against Shieldown Stingers. That was the title race last season that came down to goal difference. So that's a huge tie for them. Cheadle, probably with one of the more difficult third qualifying round ties, have been rewarded with probably one of the more difficult first round ties as well. So some difficult games back to back for them. And Mancunian Unity, who have good history in this competition, they overcame Barnsley, so they overcame Tier 4 side, and they've been given Eye-to-Eye International Soccer Academy, which my understanding is they are a team consisting of lots of students that come over from overseas and play over here. So there's a lot of American students in that team. I don't know how good they are. We have a little, not a rivalry of Unity, but you know their kind of progress through the and similar to ours. We won Tier 6 at the same time. I had a race for the title last season. Have played them in cup competitions and things in the past. So yeah, I'll be keeping an eye on that as an interesting game. I just think there's lots of interesting matches here. Like you say, you've got that Cheshire derby, you've got a Lancashire derby, you've got an all Tier 4 affair with Huddersfield and Wythenshawe, who are 2 points apart in the league at the moment. Huddersfield, I think, in second, Wythenshawe in fourth. And you've kind of got some other big ties in there, like I mentioned, you know, Middlesbrough, Stingers, Halifax and York, Halifax and Hull rather as well. So yeah, I think it's nice as well seeing some of those Tier 6 sides in there, like Penrith and Altrincham. That them two playing against each other means, you know, we are going to have a Tier 6 side in the second round, and I think that is fantastic for everybody, really.
No, absolutely. I think the thing about that one right at the bottom there, the Eye-to-Eye International site, they need a new name. You can't be doing that? I mean, what is that? Only I saw it come up on the FA Cup draw. I was trying to host an North United at that point. It wasn't easy. And I saw that and I was what is that? It sounds more like something you send up into space. So yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of that name. So it'd be good if they could come up with another one. But I'm sure there's a song somewhere in Eye to Eye. So yeah, maybe they should contact somebody about that. Stu, anything that pops out for you on that one? I mean, I think Gaz has done a good job, but I mean that Manchester Laces one is certainly one that I think stood out for me, and of course John Field Town as well.
Yeah, agreed. And I will do a cheeky little plug-in. I was able to speak to Manchester Laces manager Tamsin in the build-up to their FC United of Manchester match, and really interesting take on the background of the club. So once you've finished listening to our insights, then take a little trip over to Since 71 and have a little scroll through. It shouldn't take you long to find it, or pop it in your local search engine. But yeah, really good club. They're doing fantastic things, and I would love to see them progress into the next round. It's only one tier between the sides, so you'd argue it's winnable. I'm looking at a lot of these matches, and I'm really struggling to see any upsets, to be honest. There might be one or two potentials. I'd love to see some. I think that's the one thing, other than boosted prize money, that this competition really lacks. And probably women's football as a whole, it really does go to form. I'm surprised that all of us aren't mega rich off running accumulators on women's football, to be honest. If we endorse that sort of thing, but we don't. I would say that my tie of the round, if I was going to go anywhere, has probably got to be Huddersfield against some small side. No, I'm only teasing. The mighty Wythenshawe. That's the one that stands out from that area, and it'd be great to see FC St Helens have a good run with Leeds. But as I touched on, it's one of those games that it could be a fantastic story, or it could be another double-figure scoreline, which we've seen probably a bit too much of in the competition. But wait till we get to the southern area, and we'll maybe touch on that a bit more. But you can only beat who's in front of you.
No, absolutely. I think it's a fair point you bring up there, and of course having somebody from Wythenshawe, it certainly makes sense to just sort of ask, really, how are you feeling about that as a tie? Is it the sort of thing that you were quite happy to get with Huddersfield Town? Is that a good one for you? Would you prefer to be at home? What's the sort of the Wythenshawe background there?
I don't think we were necessarily happy to get Huddersfield. I think we were looking at it thinking we would like some of these. Altrincham I think would have been great. We've got some players who used to play for Altrincham, and we've kind of played against them before. Relatively, local to us as well. I think ultimately what we wanted is a tie that we thought we could win, and I think we still have that, although it's kind of very much at that sort of top end of ties that we think we can win. It's a winnable tie, but it's a tricky one as well. I think that it's really difficult to call. I guess it depends which of both sides turns up. We played well at the weekend. I think one of the potential difficulties with this is there is the cup and plate games on the 19th, so we're not in the competition anymore. So we've got a week off. Whether that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing, who knows? I guess it depends on what happens against York this weekend. But yeah, I think we're excited. It's a big name. They're not necessarily a big name within women's football, but people know Huddersfield Town. People recognise Huddersfield Town. So yeah, it's not too far away. It's a kind of War of the Roses type clash as well. So it's one that we're looking forward to. That these are kind of games that we relish. We've never made it to the second round in the history of our club. So there's an opportunity to go and make history again, and I think that is is a leveler in some sense. Like, Laces will have never made it to the second round, I don't believe. So that kind of levels the playing field there a little bit. And yeah, we kind of going into this, we've got a run of tough games coming up afterwards. So what better way to kind of find some form than making the second round of the FA Cup?
Absolutely. I think fair dues indeed on that one. And again, congratulations to all of the teams that have made it through to this point. It's not easy, and it's a very, very, very good thing to see those 28 teams in that position. So let's take a look at Group 2 now. And Group 2 is, again, one, I guess, weird having a group for the FA Cup. That's what I'm finding really difficult about this at the moment. It seems weird. It's almost like we've gone into the Conti Cup again, and nobody wants that. So here we are.
Wouldn't it be nice if they could up the prize money even for the losing side? So actually, you could play anyone anywhere.
I mean, that would be helpful. It really, really would. I mean, I fully understand why they regionalise it, especially in the early rounds. That would be absolutely awful. As much as it would be nice, but like I look at Stevenage, I think it'd be lovely to play some more teams that are outside of the area. But you just know you'd end up with someone like a Sunderland or a Newcastle. And yes, it's a bit of a day trip. But when you look at a club and the money they're going to get if they've lost that, it's not viable really to try and do those things. So I fully agree with you there, Stu. Absolutely. Well, this would usually be the bit where I would throw young John into the discussion, as this is the mainly Midlands sort of area. But I imagine my surprise, Gareth, when I was looking at these things, and I basically sort of went, they've tried to go North Midlands, South. But then when I realised that Stevenage were in the Midlands, there's a little bit there that I was not so happy about. I don't know if this line was a bit wavy or what they managed to do there, but certainly I did not expect to be on this side of the draw at all. But it's how they've worked it out. And fair play, we've got to draw a line somewhere, as they say, and this is exactly how it has happened. So again, we'll all just sort of jump in, but it does feel a little bit strange, certainly from my neck of the woods. Quite interesting to see some of the teams that have jumped into it. Wroxham, I should call that my neck of the woods. It's in our league, but it's not my neck of the woods there. That's definitely Gareth's. I believe it's Wroxham, but knowing them, it could be anything. It could be Ruham, who knows, or just Wham, Club Tropicana, all that jazz. But they've got Lye Town, so that's going to be a very interesting one for them. It's home tie, so it's the Lye that will have to do the travel, and I think that is certainly something that's helpful for them. I think also interesting for us, AFC Sudbury. They're a side who were in the Eastern region, obviously have made it up into the WNL now, and they will be looking at that game against Northampton, and I think that could be quite an interesting match. Luton, obviously just moving up into the WNL, having won the Eastern region. They have got Mansfield, which again is a very interesting tie for them, and probably a welcome one, to be honest with you, because they're not having the greatest time at the moment in the league. So certainly this will offer a respite, I think, and an opportunity for them to go off and see what they can do. I am sure that the Redditch one really confused me. When I was watching the draw, I saw first of all that Redditch United had already been drawn out, and then at the very end I saw that Kidderminster Harriers had Redditch Borough, and I thought, oh my god, they've done it wrong. They put two teams in at the same one. They're going to have to redo the whole thing. Maybe we're not going to end up having that team. And then it took me a while, and I got there and went, oh no, there's two Redditch sides. But yeah, John will have a field day with that one. Royston, who only just played Stevenage last night in a 2-2 draw, they are off going to be at home, to Camden Court. So again, that's a Midland side up against the Eastern region. Stevenage facing Norwich City. It's a home tie. We've played this side 11 times before in the history of the club, so there's a little bit of history there. And to be fair, Stevenage have unbelievably had the edge of it, but Norwich are having a unbelievable start to their season as well. So it will be a very interesting tier.
Unbelievable? What would you say unbelievable about their start at the moment?
Well, they're doing well. It's good.
I don't want to say unbelievable. They're if anything, they
Well,
might.
of course you believe it's just a turn of phrase, Stu. I don't mean unbelievable as in, oh my God, how have Norwich got up there? I mean unbelievable as in, wow, it's great. We've had an unbelievable start to the season for the same thing. I can believe it. Like it's a gay thing. I don't throw me under the bus there. That's outrageous. Yeah, I think it's cool. Unbelievably good. Would you prefer that? They've had an unbelievably good start to the season. There we go.
I'd say strong and on par, given that they're behind Fulham and neck and neck with Cambridge.
That's what I mean. They're doing well, but I mean, we say that traditionally they've not done that great to be fighting up there towards the top of it. So, definitely, like I say, not unbelievable in terms of any club can do it, but
like Leeds United in that sense. I'm always baffled that Leeds aren't pushing up the leagues similarly to how Newcastle have done.
That's what I mean. They've been there regularly in that league, and they filled up the places very often. So it's good to see them actually put in a bit of a bid in this season. So yeah, there's no shade from me whatsoever on that one. Cambridge United, they're also doing quite well. They're off to the University of Nottingham, which
quite well. Norwich are doing unbelievable, but they're neck and neck with Cambridge. But Cambridge,
I can't win here. I can't win. I try and be nice, and then I'm like, oh no, actually, they're doing terrible. What's happening there? I'm going to stop using adjectives in a minute. But I can do that. That's fine.
You're a teacher. You should know the power of language.
Oh, I've got great of them. So Real Bedford, they're in a league.
I'm sorry, Barry. I'm just bitter that my Moneyfields team were out of the FA Cup, and it's killed me all week.
Bless you. It's not the most fun when that happens, and that could be us in a few weeks. Absolutely. So Real Bedford, they are off to Peterborough United, and with that sort of covers my sort of southeastern region there. I think Real Bedford will enjoy a match against Peterborough United. I think that's quite a nice sort of not really local, but reasonably close sort of game, and I think it would very much be very interesting. So that's my take on some of the matches that are going there. Some of them might be unbelievable, some of them might be terrible, who knows. But yeah, Gazza, anything from you? You mentioned Crew obviously falling down into this one, so anything that stands out for you there?
I think they'll be glad they've got a home tie against Boldmere and not an away trip to Norwich, even though it's a lovely city, if I do this at home myself. I think, like you say, it's interesting where they've drawn the lines. I guess it is purely just numerical. This is where we need to do it. What I will also say is I feel vindicated after saying that I'm not from the south, being from Norwich, and from the east. I'm thinking it's very clear here. This is not Norwich City, and not in the southern part of this draw. They are in the middle of the country. So I feel like that is evidence from the Football Association that I am right. I think, like you say, there's some good ties here. I think, like you mentioned, Peterborough and Real Bedford is a really good tie. I think the pick of them, though, is Wolves against Rugby. I know Wolves fans probably not thrilled with that as a draw, because it's somebody that they can play in the league, it's somebody they can play in the County Cup, it's somebody they can play in the League Cup. So it is a fixture they're going to get repeatedly. But as a tie, it's a strong one. I think Kidderminster against Redditch. I think what John would say if he was here is that he's two former Stourbridge managers now, I believe, facing off against each other. And this time, Andy Fisher is in the higher tier, playing against the side in the lower tier. I guess those managers in the Midlands move around so much that this is probably going to happen every year from now on until the end of time. But I feel like I would be not doing John full service if I didn't mention that. Castle against Loughborough is looking like that's going to be a strong tie. Again, very similarly pegged throughout the year. It'll be interesting to see what Coventry Sphinx do against Derby County. Derby had a shaky start to the season, and we'll see kind of what happens there. Sutton Coldfield had life and death against Doncaster. coming out of that 4-3 winners, and they have been rewarded with a trip to Stoke. So yeah, I imagine the groans would have gone around there, and some choice words in group chats, and maybe not as choice as Blackburn's, but yeah, I imagine the air would have been blue around there. Lots of exciting ties. I think one thing we've not mentioned yet that is going to be particularly exciting is one of these ties is going to be on TV. TNT Sports are airing one game from this round on television. We don't know what it is yet. It's not been announced yet. I guess it depends on which grounds have the capabilities for TV crews and TV cameras. I wouldn't be surprised if Wolves and Rugby was picked, just in terms of it being towards the top. I would be a bit disappointed because it feels like a safe option. But then, you want guarantees that the cameras are going to work and they're going to have all the setup and everything available. And I think that those two clubs will put on a spectacle. But yeah, I think based on some of the ties I've seen, that would probably be where I would hedge my bets as being the TV tie for this round.
It's the one I'd most want to watch. It's the one I'd most want to watch.
I was just about to ask you that, Stu. Very much you were nodding away there as Gareth said that. I would like to pick up that I used quite nice words there, like unbelievable and quite well, and shaky. Not even a nod of the head there, nothing. Just completely got away with that, scot-free with shaky. So there we go. Shaky ground, I feel. But yeah, so that's one you'd go for, Stu. Any other ties that are sticking out for you in this one?
Well, the Real Bedford Peterborough game will be a really interesting one. I still say that last season, the team that impressed me the most that came to the John Jenkins at Moneyfields will be Real Bedford. They play fantastic football. They have got a real good blend of proper footballing players, but ones that will get stuck in. They've got leaders in their team. They've got winners in their team. The sort of team that won't be hammering a ref but the referee will know that Real Bedford players are there pushing for every decision that they can get, but not. They walk that line quite well. I was impressed with them. I would like to see them do well, but many might not, because let's face it, if it's a club with a big old bank balance, then generally neutrals aren't necessarily supporting them. But as a football purist, as I like to think of myself, they play good football, so they're a team that I'd pay to watch, and there's not the more the merrier.
No, I tend to agree with that, actually, and the guy that runs Bedford, real Bedford, of course, wouldn't want to upset the other Bedford fans.
Well, I don't know if you can upset them. From what there has there been anything made public? I think the talks are still ongoing about a merger. I don't know.
Yes, I'm still ongoing. I've not heard anything there, but like I say, Peter McCormack is quite a nice guy. You get the opportunity to talk to him, very down to earth. So. Yeah, certainly. Again, no hard feelings towards the likes of Real Bedford. Very good side and putting their time in. So there we go. That's the second one. I find it very weird that, like you say, with the lines, it's interesting how each group has got a differing number of teams. So obviously we had, I think it was 24 clubs and 12 ties in Group 1, 36 clubs and 18 ties in Draw 2. And then there's even more when you get into the third draw, because you've got 48 clubs and 24 ties. I don't know if that's just because there were more teams potentially down south and or how that's working. But it's just been very odd that they didn't just go, for example, why not just throw Crewe up into Group 1?
I suspect it's because in the south you've got Division 1 South East and South West, and then the other two you've just got one Tier 4 league covering it all. Yeah. I suspect that's potentially what's caused it.
Yeah, it seems quite reasonable, Gareth. Yeah, no, very good. So there we go, 48 teams. So obviously this means it's a incredibly long list, but I'm not going to run through too many of them just yet, because there are obviously quite a few teams that would ply their trade in the southern and southwest side of the country. So let's throw it over to Stu to kick us off on this one. Anything there that sort of really gets out into your anything that gets you excited, really, I think is what I'm asking. Torquay and Exeter sounds like it could be a giggle.
I'll tell you what, there's some unbelievable stuff here, Barry. Unbelievable. And there's some really good narratives in and around here. I feel like I have to start from the bottom up, to be honest. Millbrook against AFC Bournemouth. Out of the in the competition, we've got 4 Tier 7 sides left, and all 4 of them are in this little section. Millbrook, I wouldn't be surprised if many wouldn't be able to put it on a map, or if they did, they think they know where it is. It's probably a different Millbrook somewhere in the UK. This one is a small part of Southampton, so you could almost argue this is a little bit of a local derby. Millbrook are very much grassroots with a capital GRASSROOTS. That's okay, both teachers, is it? Cool, fantastic. Given Bournemouth are in a real predicament, to be honest with you. If they play their first team, no disrespect to Millbrook, but their first team could put 30 plus goals past them if they really wanted to do it, and to the point that it would almost be a bit awkward. But they've got a very good development side who they could probably blood a few of those in it. But I can't imagine that they would want to do that, because it would. I don't know how you do it, and if any of our sort of Bournemouth followers are watching, I'd love to know your views, because it's going to be a real tricky one to manage, because it could be a big scoreline. It's a great one for Millbrook. I probably should have done more research, because I don't know where they play. I know a couple of their players, and from the photos, they seem to play on sort of park pitches that anyone can just walk up to. So whether there's talk of reversing the fixture, whether they can reverse the fixture, whether they can hire another ground because they might be able to get a few bodies in there, I don't know. But it is the magic of the cup. I would like to think that there's some way of Millbrook being able to get a little bit of money for this with some gate receipts somewhere. But there's no danger of them a cup upset in this one whatsoever. I'm going to be jumping around them, so I'll apologise a little bit here. But another of the Tier 7 sides is Leyton Orient against Farnham Town. Leyton Orient are the underdogs on paper, in the sense of they play in Tier 7. Farnham Town are in Tier 6. However, those that might not be aware, Leyton Orient are very much #United Phoenix team at the minute. The manager is Gav Stevens, isn't it? Yeah, Gav Stevens moved from # down to Leyton Orient. Obviously excited by the project. They are a team that would be holding their own in Tier 4, and they might even argue that they feel that they could hold their own in the bottom of Tier 3. Maybe not quite just yet, but by the time they hit Tier 4, I'm sure they will be able to. They are a very strong team, and I think that could be one of the few cup upsets that we'll get, in a sense of lower league against upper league. You could argue, if you compare resources, is it an upset? But I want the magic of the cup. I'm looking at this from a tier perspective. But we've obviously got some ties between clubs in the same division, with regards to like #United and Oxford United. Any Tags fans or Oxford fans might have been sitting there thinking, we'll be on telly, we could be on telly, but no, it is going to be Wolves rugby, even though that this is 2 Tier 3 sides that are locking horns. Plymouth and Maidstone would be a nice fun one. It's going to be a big old trip for Maidstone. I don't know how much of their FA Cup budget they're going to get left over after their travels, but talking about the clubs that you end up getting drawn against that are in the same division as you, do you know what? I think that's fantastic. I think you're going to get a proper journey. Hopefully there's enough in the budget to get a coach. as you guys probably all know, when you do get a coach with a team and you've got the players and the staff and maybe some of the family and fans in there, it's a great one. And they'll be playing against a sort of a well-recognised team that could be a really, really good little story. I think I touched on it earlier, but I think there was a little bit of a glitch, so it might have got missed. But you'll notice that tie number 14, Fulham against South London. You've got a Tier 4 Fulham against Tier 7 South London. My Moneyfields team, we lost what should have been the tie of the round. Because the glamour tie of the round against Fulham. But what's not the defeat that sort of kind of irks us as a club more than a thing. It's the manner of it. We, after a strong start, let ourselves down a little bit, if we're being brutally honest. We lost 4-0. There are not 4 goals between the sides. We beat them on in pre-season, so we know that we're up there and capable, and whoever went out of that match was going to be disappointed. So to see them drawn against the Tier 7 side, we'd have been rubbing our hands with that. And after having previous joy in the competition the last 2 years, it's been a bit of a depressing week, to be honest, seeing all of these ties and not being involved. Hopefully by the time that these games come around, I can be enthusiastic about the competition and I can really enjoy it as a neutral, and still maybe seeing if I can find a game each round. But yeah, it's a bit of a frustrating one, and I think it's a great one for South London. It's obviously very relatively local to them, but Fulham play at Motspur Park, which is the Premier League club's training ground, and the pitch is beautiful. It's perfect. So it's really going to be a great day for South London. I don't think they're going to be getting any wins out of it. I think it will be a comfortable win for Fulham, but hopefully it'll be another one of those. It could be a really good day coming up against a team that wearing a Premier League badge on their shirt, which is always nice for the scrapbook. But yeah, probably no upset there. Just picking out a couple of others. I think AFC Wimbledon against Chatham Town could be a good, fun little tie. I think that Fulham. Fulham. They're on the brain at the moment. AFC Wimbledon will probably just edge that, but Chatham Town are doing well since their relegation. They'll be looking to push for promotion, so it'll be a really nice little test for them because the Dons haven't really having it all their own way so far this season, so it could be fun. Just beneath that on the list, we've got Winchester City Flyers against Gwalior United. Winchester City Flyers are one of my former clubs, actually. I started out coaching in women's football with their reserve team, and they are a lovely club. I think I've maybe mentioned them when we've done Tier 5 shows in the past, but they have got a fantastic setup, one of the nicest clubs and the nicest chairman and committee that you could ever want. Proper footballing people who will absolutely deserve a little bit of success in their competition. I don't know if they'll necessarily have enough to pip Gwalior, but it should be a really good little tie for Winchester, and they're a team that are going to start to push for promotion within their division, and it'd be great to see them succeed in that tie. My hometown, Portchester, down at number 12, are hosting Gloucester City. Gloucester City are a team I've got a little bit of awareness of because Moneyfields, we faced them in our magical 4th round FA Cup run 2 years ago, and they're no mugs. They'll give them a good game, but Portchester have recruited well. They've recruited a lot, to the point that manager Mark Duggan's probably got a really tricky job picking his squad every single week because they've got such talent available to them. But I think they'll be fancying themselves in this one, and with the firepower that they've got in Becky Bath, former AFC Wimbledon player, looked like she'd kind of taken a break from football but come back. They'll do well. They'll do well. They're obviously sort of a local side for me, and in that sense, yeah, I'd love to see them do well. From a Moneyfields perspective, I'm going to sit there sort of going, "Ugh, should be us, could be us." But yeah, like like I said, hopefully I can kind of build a bridge and get over that by the time that we get around to this game. So yeah, there's a couple of good little stories on there. There's probably others that I haven't really touched yet. Swindon Town, Dulwich Hamlet, Saltdean United, really good up and coming club at the moment, doing a lot of work on their home ground at the moment, and it'll be great to see them progress in the competition, get a little bit of money in the bank for them, because I think they're a club that could be looking to sort of push up the divisions as they as the years pass by.
Yeah, for sure. I think you're absolutely spot on there. Very comprehensive coverage of all things Group 3, Draw 3. So yeah, big uns. I think Brentford Sutton to me sounds like a very, very interesting match as well. Brentford obviously doing incredibly well. Yes, I'm allowed to say that. Incredibly well in the London and South East Division, Premier Division. Nice to see them doing as well as they are as well. So, be nice.
Barry, you've got a bit of experience with Haringey as well, haven't you?
A lot of experience with Haringey, yes.
Good club. I think actually, I can't believe I missed it, but when you're talking about potential upsets, I think they could be in there. Obviously, Bristol Rovers are a strong club with a bit of firepower with the AFC Bournemouths and Bloomfield. But I was really impressed when we played when Moneyfields played them in the FA Cup a couple of years ago. A really good, strong young side that probably just lacked a little bit of experience to go with the youth and quality, but absolutely blistering pace. I think that could be one for the upsets potentially.
It's a very difficult one. I think what I find very interesting and what I like, this is one of the reasons why I love the FA Cup so much, is because when you're facing teams that are in different divisions to the ones that you're used to being into different regions, it's really interesting to see how they're comparable, because you can watch a team, take last season, for example, you can see Luton Town do incredibly well, but how would that match against if they're playing Moneyfields, if they're playing with Insure, if they're playing these teams that have done well and are winning and leading their leagues? It's very interesting to see what not the standard of football, because that doesn't make it sound right, but you know what I mean, where the levels are and how they sort of measure up against some of these other teams. And I think Haringey and Bristol Rovers is very much a big one in that respect. Stevenage have had a couple of FA Cup games. They've played a tier 5 side in Newport Pagnell Town, who had only just started their season really in the Midlands leagues, and did all right. We played Chelmsford City. They were a tier 6 side, but they were top of it. And that's what I mean. It's really interesting because that tier 6 side probably going to be tier 5 next year. So it's good for them as well, because they get to see what they need to do in order to measure up with some of the sides that are a little bit higher. And Haringey are a really tough side. You know, they're one of 2 sides to take points off of Stevenage, with, you know, Royston being the other one last night. And they're a very, very tough side. They've got some really fast forwards. They've got the ability to get goals out of absolutely nothing. And one minute you think you're quite happy and quite content, and then the next thing you know, they pounced, and you're potentially 1 or 2 goals down. One of our biggest defeats last season was to Haringey Borough. They absolutely turned up and ran riot. So yeah, I think they are an incredibly good side, but you would know Bristol Rovers far better than I. So that could absolutely be a heavyweight tie. I quite agree with you on that one.
And Bristol, just sort of coming in there so quickly. And I would put Bristol Rovers as slight favourites, but if they're having an off day or not got the shooting boots on, then Haringey could be spurred on by their fans and have the result, because they've got a great set of fans. They're very vocal. A set of fans in number and volume that probably London City Lionesses would be envious of.
I've got to say, there is a funny little story, I suppose, in a way. So Haringey, as you say, are a very, very good side in terms of their fan base as well. And they come over, they ring their cowbells and all sorts of manner of things, make lots of noise. And in the game we played this season, Haringey, I think, took the lead on that one. Yeah, they did. They took the lead. And they were 3-1 up. And they started singing, as they do. And Stevenage came back 3-2, 3-3. And at 3-3, the Stevenage fans started singing, and that is the first time in the history of me going to the Stevenage matches over the last 4 years or so that I've actually heard a portion of the fans burst into song. It was the briefest of moments. They remembered who they were for a moment, and they went, "Oh no, this isn't us." But like they'd got themselves that little bit of a rivalry, and you could see the passion of the moment and getting caught up in it, and that's what football is all about, having that ability to get that passion, and Haringey definitely do their job in terms of getting that in there as well. And yes, the other game I was going to highlight there being London Bees and Barking. It should be a straight up win for London Bees without any trouble whatsoever, but Barking can be they're like a wasp. They keep going, they'll keep coming at you, and they do not give up. So even though they are a tier 5 side, London Bees will need to be at their very best. And of course, they've got Millie Isherwood, who plays up front for them, who is a superb striker. So it'd be very good to see how they get on. Gareth, I'd like to throw it over to you as well. Is there any games there that have met your appetite at all?
I think not. I don't think that there's really huge amounts to add. I think the hashtag Oxford game will be Oxford United, so I don't want to upset any. I don't know if Oxford is like Bristol Rovers, where if you don't say the United, they get upset. That's interesting, obviously, because hashtag are a different side this year to where they were last year. So that all tier 3 affair is an interesting one.
Do you think their new signing will play?
Say again, sorry.
Did you think their hashtag new signing will play?
Yeah.
That's an episode in itself.
Oh, absolute madness. A decision was made, whether I don't think it's necessarily a good one. Purely because of John Foster, Millwall Lionesses and Cheltenham Town. Again, he's not here, but he would absolutely have mentioned them. So I feel like it's only fair to. I just think, like Stu said earlier, normally in the FA Cup you're looking for upsets, you're looking for places where these kind of difficult, where people can overhaul teams. I think that's why Mancunian Unity last year, their run got so much attention because they beat Leeds, they beat Stockport whilst they're in tier 5. We don't see it. I hope some of these games are closer. And I hope that there's an upset or two, and that some of these kind of teams further down the pyramid get their moment in the spotlight, because it's a fantastic competition. I mean, I interviewed a couple of our players at the end of the game against Polton, and they said that they're younger players, and they were saying to be 16, 17 and playing in the FA Cup is a competition that you kind of put on a pedestal, really. So kudos to all the teams that are here. It's the first round proper. It's where people want to get to. We stick the word proper at the end of it still. Let's all go and just put on however many ties there are of just good football matches.
I agree. 56, I think, is the total number of ties, but I could be wrong. Stranger things have happened. The other one I did want to throw up there, and I didn't, was the Dartford Forest Green Rovers match. Very much you were talking about the distance that Maidstone United will have to travel to go to Plymouth. It's not going to be too dissimilar for Dartford and Forest Green Rovers. Obviously, Dartford will be able to stay. It's Forest Green Rovers who've got to go the other way. Again, quite a distance, but yeah, I'll be very intrigued to see how they get on, because Dartford, right up near the top of the London and South East Division 1 there, and Plymouth, of course, a very good side as well. So yeah, very interesting to see how those games pan out. I'm really looking forward to it. It's the FA Cup. It's not even 3 weeks away now, towards the end of October, I think the 26th. That's a Sunday. That will be when they're being played. So great stuff. Really, really, really looking forward to that. But I do want to just recall your attention back to the very beginning when I spoke to you a little bit about the the bigger sides coming in. And I'm just intrigued as to what your thoughts would be on that one, because like I say, you get the opportunity to play in the first round, and you play up against these teams that are coming from tier 3, and then in round 2, nothing. And it's just, again, you're talking about these upsets and things like that. That's great. But ultimately, the holy grail of the FA Cup, the whole purpose on which it was built, is that ability for smaller sides to have the opportunity to get that glamour tie against a side that they don't face regularly, or a chance for them to come along and get a little bit of money in. And we decided on the Monday show that actually this was a great way of sort of inadvertently helping smaller teams to be able to get a little bit more cash, because if those games are going to happen at home, if you draw Chelsea in the third round, which you've got much more chance of getting to than the fourth, that's an incredible situation. So I don't know if they would want to put the WSL all together, 1 and 2, in at the third round, or put WSL 2 in at the second round and the WSL in the third. But I just feel like that would be a good thing. I know that it's an extra game for the WSL teams to play, but so what would be my answer to that one, really. It's the FA Cup. And actually, I don't feel like it would be too much of a hardship. And I think that's a really good opportunity for, like I say, these smaller teams to potentially get a glamour tie and to add just that little bit more pizzazz to what is already a fantastic competition. So I'm intrigued. What would you guys think coming at this from a more lower league look?
I have two thoughts on this. One is my kind of football fan hat, which, that holy grail of, can we draw one of the biggest sides in the country and make a massive spectacle of it, is incredible. The alternative to that is the prize money really ramps up in the third round. So at the moment, if you win in the second round proper, you earn £8,000. If you lose, you get 2,000. So if you're having the WSL 2 sides come in, then, for example, then losing that is worth £2,000. Whereas if you got a more winnable tie, you could get 8, because in the third round, the winning club gets 35,000. So it jumps from, bear in mind that you go third qualifying round, £4,000 for winning it. First round proper, £6,000 for winning it. Second round proper, £8,000 for winning it. Third round proper, £35,000 for winning it. So if let's just say tier 4 side gets to the fourth round, at the moment, they will be taking home 4, 10, 18, 21, 31, 71,000 if you lose in the fourth round at the moment. Add that to having the massive tie, and that's a huge pay packet. Obviously, that's significantly less if you lose in the second round. If you lost in the second round, you'd be getting 12,000 at the moment, which is no small chunk of change, but it's not 70k. So if they were to change the prize money to reflect where the quality of the sides are coming in, and do it as a way of increasing the prize money, bringing those top sides in earlier, absolutely fantastic. But I think, would clubs prefer, let's say they lose to a WSL side in the fourth round, or lose in the fourth round full stop, would the £71,000 or that one day be more valuable? I don't know. It's an interesting
also,
one.
I don't think it is just about the money. I think it's about attracting fans into the gate and seeing that women's football's there to be done. And looking at the fourth round, at that point there's 16 matches, so there's 32 teams that will come into the fourth round, and obviously 12 of those are going to be WSL sides. And now that means there's 20 other teams. Now you think about the WSL too, if they've been incredibly good and managed to get through all of their matches as well, providing they don't get drawn against each other, potentially you're really only talking of around about 8 possible teams from all of these rounds that have battled long and hard. And it just, I don't know, I think to me it just sort of feels like it's favouring still the bigger teams when you get later on. And I get that, because in the grand scheme of things, they want ties that are going to be able to be televised. But I just at the same time think that's really mad that you've got so few spaces, because the whole purpose of the FA Cup is the magic of the FA Cup, the fact that you're supposed to be able to get them. And I'd say, I don't know, Stu, where do you go with this? I think it's actually quite important that we bring them not down a peg or two, but we bring them down a round or two.
I've kind of look at it with two hats on, to be honest. As the
You're not with two hats, and you've both got hair.
Well, you say two hats. I don't look great in a hat, to be honest. I don't really feel like I'm a hat person. Maybe a beanie in the winter, but no, you certainly won't catch me in a baseball cap. Yeah, so I wear two hats. I wear the hat of someone that is involved in a National League football team behind the scenes, working in the media, communications, and marketing side of things, and it's a very easy sell if we want to get bums on seats for a match. That's why I'm always quite torn about the whole PGA involvement with we've got Bristol City's PGA in the next round of the National League Plate competition, and that is in a way a little bit of an easier sell than it would be playing against someone like, no disrespect, but to Portishead or Abingdon or Keynsham in our division, because they're not recognised names necessarily locally within Hampshire. So it's good when you get these big names. So I look at it from a perspective of, if Moneyfields drew Chelsea in the next round of the FA Cup, it would be great. It'd be fantastic to have them down. People would have a really good day. Hopefully they'll see a historic cup upset, but in reality it will probably be a defeat, probably a comfortable defeat. And if we had a real off day, they could put maybe 7 or 8 goals past us. I like to think that we've got enough in us to hold out and give them a good game for a while. But maybe that I might be absolutely deluded. I don't know. Will those fans come back if they see us get comfortably beaten? The answer is probably not. So,
but would they come back if you did incredibly well, if I can use those terms again, and only lost 2-0?
They would. But I don't know. That's taking it away from Moneyfields now. I don't think there are very many National League sides that will hold their own against the WSL sides, because the gap is so massive. Wasn't it? I think it was Bristol Rovers, didn't they lose? I think it was about between 7 and 9-0 when they played Aston Villa in the 4th round last year. So that's probably par, really, given that we're kind of neck and neck on points with Bristol Rovers at the moment. I kind of say no, to be honest. And it was a weird one for us at Moneyfield. So when we did have our cup run 2 years ago, we played Millwall in the 3rd round. Millwall are a team in the tier below us. And in the next round, we had London City Lionesses. So in a weird way, we ended up playing the same team twice in a weird way. But for us, it was a good tie. Out of all of the championship, as it was, and WSL sides, we gave them a really good game. We lost 4-0, but I think all 4 of their goals were either in first half injury time or in the first 10-15 minutes of the second half. Outside of that, objectively to a neutral, we were the stronger team. We had chances, and it was a really, really good tie. But it wasn't that big recognised name. But then I think if we would obviously face them now, or have another big recognised name like a Saints, then you play. It's professionals against amateurs. I want to watch games where it's competitive. So I would much rather draw a Leeds, a QPR, someone with a recognised name, but that's at our level, than I would a WSL side. So
I get that. Stevenage against Newcastle. I go back to when I got here in 1996, and Stevenage drew Newcastle, and Alan Shearer was a cheating little so-and-so, and it was all going on, did it cross the line, did it not, Giuliano Grazioli. They were painters and decorators up against people that, were top of that's the dream, isn't it? You could get battered 8-0, but you could also win 1-0.
I don't think you can compare it with women's football, though. I don't think you can compare it. I think Stevenage at
Not
that
Manchester
time, I imagine they weren't training twice a week. And I imagine that even though, I see the value in it, but AFC Portchester won 19-0 against Weymouth, and that's not good. And as someone that's I've been there covering, I've seen England. I can't remember who it was. I think it might have even been someone like San Marino. But I've been to a couple of the England internationals post the first Euros win, and they were big wins with a lot of goals. And we see it in men's football as well. And they say, well, actually, is it any value having a small, really, really small team that?
I think in fairness, they'd have had to have beaten a good side to get to that point. They're still like the last line of defence. So you would have had to have beaten a championship or a WNL side to get to that point. It's really, you've done incredibly well if you've just played tier 6, 7 and 5, maybe even 4.
I would say one thing I would say just on the attendances and coming back, obviously our group for the WNL Cup was full of big names. United, PGA, Wolves, and Stoke played Stoke away. 466 fans came to watch us against Man United PGA. That's the most fans. That's the record attendance, smashed the record attendance, and I believe it's still the highest attendance at the Avonshaw Community Stadium all season, men or women's first team. Since then, we've averaged about 120, which is roughly what we expected, and not a great deal. It's more than we averaged last season, but not a huge amount more. So there's 300 fans there that haven't come back. Now, that's something that we need to think about in terms of what is it. I think the fact it was school holidays helped them come. I think the fact that there wasn't a men's game the day before helped them, and all these various other things as well. But I think you'll get a lot of people go, oh, that's Man United. I'll go and watch that. And then, then you kind of just left with your ordinary fans that come back. If there was a way of making sure, if that we played that game and 466 fans come, and then our attendance goes up, 60 of those extra 350 come back. Fantastic. We've increased our attendance by 50%. Great. But I think it's tricky, isn't it? And that was a game we drew 1-1. It was a close game. It was a good game. A game we could have won. A game we could also have lost. But I think if fans do come back, that'd be great. I still think, like you say, it is the absolute dream to get one of these huge clubs. I think, I think for that one-off, you go, we're gonna lose this. We want to go and make it respectful and hope they have an absolute stinker. And we can score, go 1-0 up and then get beat or something along those lines. I think that's a dream in those situations. And I still want to beat Huddersfield, and I want to win in the second round. And I want an easy tie in the third round, and let's get Arsenal in the fourth round, wherever. Or let's get. I would quite like United away, so I can go through the players' entrance at Leeds Sports Village, or it's not Leeds Sports Village anymore. It's the Progress with Unity Stadium. But that kind of thing, I think that is the dream. But I also think that the realist in me says that lots of teams rely on the FA Cup to fund next season, and so bringing those sides in earlier, as kind of clinical and boring and grim as that is, I think that is the reality of it. But with my fans' head on, I want to play Arsenal.
I don't know if I'd just being a bit rude here or not, but we've just sat here and said we want to see more upsets, but we don't want to bring in the big dogs to beat them.
I don't think there would be
see these upsets. I find nothing more hilarious than seeing Chelsea against Chelsea.
I think the thing is, Barry. I'm even thinking that there's no one's getting relegated from the WSL this year because of the gap between the WSL and the Championship. That chasm is just massive between even Tier 3. When you look at, I guess in summary, it really depends who's drawn. To be honest. Because like when you see Wolves when they drew Man United the other year, that was a that was streamed live, and that was a good competitive game. It was a good day, which helped Wolves kind of gauge where they're at. There was a 4-0 defeat. No discredit there. There are probably WSL sides that have had bigger hammer-ins against them, but if they were to have drawn some miraculous Tier 6 side that have got through, it puts you in a very awkward situation, which is why I'm so fascinated by how AFC Bournemouth will manage against Millbrook.
Or even another Tier 3 side, because Wolves beat Hull 7-1 a couple of weeks ago. So, it doesn't even necessarily need to be a Tier 6 side. It could just be, if I don't know, Aston Villa first team last season had drawn Stourbridge, it could have been a long day for Stourbridge with the form that they had.
But by the same token,
you
were saying there, you wanted to get United because then you get the chance to go through, the Lee Sports Village tunnel and all that sort of stuff, and the girls will have that as well, wouldn't they? So yeah, they might get absolutely tonked, but just imagine you're getting the chance to go and walk in at, it won't be Stamford Bridge, but it could be Kings Meadow, or getting the opportunity to go to these places. Like, it may never happen in their career. They might never get anything as good as that again. And it's an opportunity and an experience. And it's
Is it a good experience? Is it a good experience if you lose
first round?
Is it a good experience if you lose by double figures? And I think that's the question, because when you are a football league side drawn against a Premier League side in the men's league, you are probably training sort of 3-4 times a week. But a lot of these players are at amateur level of women's football are still just training twice a week, and some of them probably would argue that they've got rubbish slots, maybe inadequate resources. So it's not a level playing field. I agree that should be something that the competition should aspire to, because I think the competition should be upping the prize money, so that actually more, like when you say about the sort of difference between 12 getting in 12 grand and 70 grand, and when you look at how much the men's competition gets, and I get the whole thing, the men's bringing more money, but it's got nothing. The prize money, it's got no influence by TV money. They're separate pots. So if Pompey men's team get a good draw and they go on TNT Sports, the prize money has got nothing to do with the fact that it's on TV. It's got nothing to do with the gate receipts. The prize money is the prize money because the FA, the not-for-profit organisation that run the competition, just decided that is worth this and that's worth that. So that's all it comes back to. And if this is the thing, in 10 years' time, Barry should exactly be right. They should be coming in at the third round at the very latest or earliest, I don't know. But these club money fields, if we had we could have a good cut. It doesn't have to be a good cup run. So when we had a good cup run, it's worth £60,000-70,000. That then means that actually we could pay players. If we knew that we had that every year, even just going 2 or 3 rounds deep, we know that we could pay more players to maybe train. We could train 3 times a week. We train 3 times a week with. We can maybe pay for an extra full-time coach, or our manager's not even full-time. He takes 1 day off a week where possible to catch up on stuff. So you've got a full-time manager. We can maybe get 2 full-time staff, a full-time marketer, and that's when it could start to level. So I think you're right. I think it definitely should be something that the competition should aspire to, and I think it's a really good point of debate that's almost could take up a whole episode. So maybe I might get some of these down in writing so we could get something shared and get other people's views. If you are watching this, comment. This is it's a fun topic. Well done, Barry. Unbelievable, Barry. Great conversation.
Well done, you two. It's been the best debate I think we've had in 42 ones. We've just been talking about it. Lovely. And it's the first I'm like, no, let's have a fight about it. It's great. And what I love about it is we're all mates at the end of it. And that's how it should be. So
and the thing is, we still all agree that we would absolutely love to get drawn against a massive side. But yeah, it's not all sunshine and roses when that happens, because you sort of realise that it could be a long afternoon. A great experience, but a long afternoon.
No, absolutely, of course it is. And no, it's not fun to lose 12-0, but if you already know you're going to get beaten, or you feel like you're going to get beaten, who knows? So there we go. Right, anyway, we are done. That is it. The FA Cup has been done and dusted. We're going to pop it into the corner and come back to it towards the end of the month. Next week, we will be back Probably back on Wednesday, back to our normal day. And I think, what are we on now? Tier 5? Did we do Tier 4 last week? I'm very confused. I've done that many shows this week.
I think so.
It'll be one of the two. Whichever one we didn't do last week, that's the one we'll be looking at. So there you go. That's a good thing. Go and look at what we did last week and whatever that was. Watch it. Watch the whole thing, and then come back next week and watch that one. Stu, pleasure to have you. Anything you need to shout out?
Come and have a look at Since 71. We're quite proud of our little website, and we're always looking for contributors that want to share stories to win the women's game.
There you go. Gaza, anything you want to shout?
Just, the international break is coming up soon for the men's game. So, if you usually watch your men's team at the weekend and want to do something, go and find the women's team to watch.
No, absolutely. I think that is a perfect way to end it. So find your local team, get yourself down there, and yeah, you'll be surprised at what you get. It's bloody good fun. Well done, everyone, and we will see you all next week.